Hey there, drone fans. Rick here again from Drone Valley. In today's clip, I'd like to try and answer the most popular question I've gotten from you guys over the past few months, and it has to do with the Autel EVO. I've gotten a ton of emails and phone calls and comments on the channel about that particular quad, and I totally understand the excitement behind it because, let's be honest, it's the first quad that's been introduced in the market in the foldable space by a major corporation that actually competes with the two that are in the market today that are really industry leaders. DJI has owned that market space. They've had the Mavic Pro, the Mavic Pro Platinum, the Mavic Air. All of these are foldable quads with fantastic specifications, and they've dominated that space. And for Autel to sit down and pretty much put aside the standard design they've used on the X-Star Premium and re-engineer their quad to be a foldable quad to compete with these guys was a big, big deal. And I was at CES a couple of months ago in Las Vegas when the quad was announced, and everybody out there was talking about it because no one expected it. We expected a follow-on to the X-Star Premium, maybe an upgraded version, new cameras, things like that. So when I walked into their booth and I saw a quad that looks a lot like this one sitting there and actually saw 3 versions of it, I thought, wow, we got a race on our hands here. This is going to be a cool product. So I was very, very excited about it. And I was lucky enough to actually get hands-on with all 3 versions of it. The 1/2.3 sensor, the 1-inch sensor, and the 360-degree camera. And I thought, these guys could be a major competitor in the market space. So I totally understand the excitement behind it. The challenge for me, though, and the question you guys are asking, is that I thought that product would be out by now. There were some conversations in the booth about kind of a soft launch date being in April sometime or the end of March. We're entering into May now, so we're a month past that soft launch date. I know a lot of people are waiting for it. So the question I'm getting from you guys isn't, is the EVO worth the money? That would be a different question to answer, and I'll attack that in another clip. The question is more, should you continue to wait for the launch of that EVO? We're not really sure when it's coming. Or should you look at another quad that's in the market today and start flying your quad? And I totally understand that question because we're in the spring now and the weather's beautiful. I'm out every day flying, whether it be my Mavic Pro or my Air or my Spark or any of the quads I've got. Every day I've got a set of charged batteries with me. I'm out in my car and I'm flying that quad someplace, and I'm really enjoying the experience of flying the quad. So I guess the question I'm going to try and answer in this clip is the EVO different enough than the stuff that's on the market today for you guys to wait however long it takes for that product to hit the street? And I'm going to try to be as fair as I can be in this comparison, because at the end of the day, we can have a nerd fight about specifications, and I'll do another clip where I compare them side by side with a bunch of different quads and give you the specs. But the honest truth is, I don't have an EVO. I've got one on order just like you guys do, so I can't really evaluate that quad until I have it in my hands and I fly it a week or two to actually see if those specifications are real and it actually does what it says it can do. But when you're buying a quad, there's only a couple of things you really care about, really 5 or 6 categories of things you care about. You want to know how good the camera is. You want to know how long it's going to stay up in the air. So what's the flight time on it? You're going to want to know what kind of distance can you get out of it. Not that you're going to fly the full 4.3 miles that all the quads do, but you want to make sure that the connection topology between the controller and the quad is strong enough that even when you're flying in close, you've got rock solid connections. Another thing you're going to consider is the maturity of the company, because buying a quad like this is an expensive proposition. And if you drop a lot of money on this high-tech toy, you want to make sure that if you have any questions or any kind of problems with it, the company's going to stand behind it. But that maturity is more than just the after-sale service. It also has to do with how mature is the product. And then the last thing is the cost, right? Because if you're going to spend your hard-earned money on something, you want to make sure you get the best value possible for that money. So what I thought I would do is look at all the products that are out in the market today, and honestly, between the two, I'm going to compare it to the Mavic Pro today, because there's been some great discounting on the Mavic Pro on a lot of different sites out there. And I feel like right now for the money, this is hands down the best value for a flying quad. I love the Mavic Air as well. I actually fly this one more than I fly the Mavic now because it's smaller and I can take it with me. But there are differences between these two, and that's a whole nother clip. So for this clip, the question I'm going to try and answer is, should I wait for that EVO product to be released, or should I just buy the Mavic Air today and fly the thing and have fun with it and get it out in the field? And the way I'm going to do the comparison is against those 5 categories that I just mentioned: camera quality, flight time, flight distance, maturity of the company, and then finally the price. Those 5 things, because again, if you're going to make that decision, those are the things you're going to really zero in on, and all the tech specs underneath it kind of bubble up to those 5 things anyway. So stay tuned and I'll do the comparison. What I'm going to give you first is the EVO specifications against those 5 categories. Then I'll give you the Mavic specifications against those 5 categories. Then I'll do a side-by-side to show you who wins in each of those categories, and I'll come back with some final conclusions at the end. So stay tuned and I'll do the Autel stuff first. I'll start with the Autel EVO, and the first thing I want to look at is the camera, because that seems to be the specification that usually wins out whenever people get into a fist fight over, do I go with the Mavic or go with the EVO, specifically because they're claiming a 4K 60 frames per second image out of that on video, which is astounding. And it is true that that's the only quad on the market today that'll do that in a foldable design. Now, there are other quads out there that'll do it with larger sensors, but remember the Autel EVO is using the 1/2.3 sensor, which is pretty much the common standard for most of the quads that are in the market in that price range today. But the fact that they can do 4K at 60 frames a second is really pretty impressive. As far as the distance goes, it's the longest flight time of any quad that Autel's put out. So it's got a full 7 kilometers of distance, which is 4.3 miles. And again, that's pretty much the maximum standard for most of the quads flying today. So good on them that they've increased that distance tremendously. The flight time on it, it's listed on their site as up to 30 minutes. Now, that's an interesting specification because I would have hoped they would have put down maybe 26 minutes, hovering, and 25 minutes when you're flying into a stiff breeze at this kind of velocity. But up to 30 minutes, I guess, means that under perfect conditions with no breeze and you're flying at a moderate speed, that you can fly about 30 minutes on a battery. And then maturity is something that really makes it difficult because I looked at the company over the history of their releasing of drones, and they're really a stable company. I mean, the X-Star Premium was a fantastically, solid product, had a great reputation for customer service. They've been in the business a while, and people just love the company. So from a company perspective, they're a very mature company, and I would trust them completely with the products they put out in the street. The challenge is that the EVO is a first-generation product, and everybody will tell you, you can't stick the landing on a first-generation product. There are bound to be bugs. Maybe there's mechanical things they've got to fix. Some things they can fix through firmware. But even though the company, Autel, is mature, the product isn't. It's a brand new product to market. So I'm a little bit wary that buying a first-generation product might introduce some problems. So we'll see where that goes. And again, I have one on the way, so when I get it, I'll review it and I'll let you know what I think of it. Now, the price right now is announced at $999, and you can get that from a couple of different companies out there on the market. So about $1,000 for that drone seems to be right about where it should be. When the Mavic Pro first came out, it was a more expensive drone if you bought the Fly More package. So I think the $1,000 price range is probably okay. I would have loved to seen it come out at around the $850, $899 price range, but it's totally up to them what they do. I'm sure they'll have sales on it and stuff once it starts shipping. But for my money, those are impressive specifications for a brand new quad hit in the market, and I'd like to compare them now with the Mavic product so you can get a feel for how that one compares side by side. Now we'll look at the Mavic, and I'll start with the camera, which has a video image quality of 4K at 30 frames per second. Now that's not quite as good as the EVO, because the EVO can record 4K at 60 frames a second, but I don't actually have the EVO in my hands, so I can't do a side-by-side comparison. When I do get that quad, I'll go out, I'll fly it, I'll record some footage and do the same with the Mavic and put them up side by side, because I'm not sure that image quality is something I'll notice with my eyes. But for you guys out there that are pure videophiles, obviously the 60 frames per second is going to provide the absolute best image quality, and I know you like to have that so you can, change things in post later on and make adjustments as needed. So that 60 frames a second may make a difference for you. As far as the distance go, they both fly 4.3 miles or 7 kilometers. That seems to be the barrier for, for distance on these new quads. I'm sure there's some technology limitations behind that, but they're pretty much equal in the distance. Now the flight time is interesting. On the Mavic, they claim a 27-minute flight time, and I've flown it in a ton of different conditions, and I've gotten maybe a little bit better or a little less than that depending on how long I'm hovering, how fast I'm flying it. Is there a stiff wind? Am I doing a lot of, aggressive movements where I'm starting and stopping or making turns? But anything for me over 20 or 25 minutes is fine, because if we're being honest, none of us fly it to a dry battery. We pretty much bring it back with 20 or 25% left in the battery. So your average flight times will be around 20 minutes with both quads, I'm assuming. Now the maturity is where it gets a little bit interesting, because DJI has been in the market for quite some time. They've had 6 or 7 different generations of quad when you go back to the original Phantoms all the way through the Mavic. They've come out with a Mavic Pro Platinum. There's rumors that there's a Mavic Pro 2 coming out pretty soon. So from a company perspective, they've been around a while. I know because they've had explosive growth over the last 5 years in particular, it's difficult for a company to start small and grow that big and become an international powerhouse around drones without having some issues with customer support, maybe some quality issues. So I know people out there that have had issues with them that are not happy with DJI. That's going to happen with any big big company, but from a maturity perspective, they've got the manufacturing down, they've got the sourcing down, the engineering teams are strong, so they're a very mature company. And in particular, this product has been out since 2016. It is a first generation product for them, but I can say I've flown this thing from the first week it was released. I was lucky to get some of the first shipments out and haven't had a single problem with it. There have been no class problems with it. It's not like they had to, call them back and change things on it. They've done constant firmware upgrades against it. So in a lot of ways, they've really taken care of the customers with the product. So from a maturity perspective, very mature company, very mature product. Now pricing, that's where it gets interesting as well, because this came out, I think it was $11.99 or $12.99 for the quad. It's dropped in price a couple of times since then, especially when they released the new Mavic Pro Platinum, which is this guy with upgraded blades and ESCs and a different color scheme on it. It dropped, the original Mavic Pro dropped a little bit in price. Now there's rumors there's a Mavic Pro 2 coming, as I mentioned, and that may drop the price even more. But right now you can find this drone online for $799, $849, $899, which is a pretty good deal for what you're getting with that particular quad. Now stay tuned. What I'm going to do next is actually put up a chart and show you how these two compare side by side to maybe help you make that decision. Then I'll come back with some conclusions at the end and give you a recommendation what I would do if I'm buying a quad today, what decision I would make in the market space. Now I'll do a side-by-side comparison between the Autel EVO and the DJI Mavic Pro. I've got the EVO on the left and the Mavic on the right, and I'll use the same 5 categories we've been discussing up until now to show you which of the two drones comes out on top for each of those categories. So let's start with the camera. The Autel EVO can produce a 4K 60 frames per second video recording compared to the DJI Mavic Pro's 4K 30 frames per second. So just on specs alone, at least on paper, the Autel EVO comes out ahead. Now, I don't know how much difference that's going to make when I'm actually out in the field recording because I don't have an EVO yet, but once I get one and put it up, I'll do some side-by-side comparisons. But if you're a pure video file and you're looking for the highest quality image you can find in a portable foldable quad today, the EVO is going to win that. And I also understand that the video recording capabilities is only one specification you're going to look at. When you're taking pictures, there's ISO, there's shutter speed, a bunch of other things, but we had to pick one spec to compare the two, and the EVO comes out on top. Now we'll talk about distance. They both fly the same distance, 7 kilometers and 4.3 miles. And to me, honestly, that's a bit of a nonsense specification because I live in the United States and we have the mandate where you can't fly beyond visual line of sight. And with my aging eyes, I can't really see a quad that's 4.3 miles away up in the sky. So what that means to me, and I guess is more important, is that the fact that they could fly 4.3 miles means that the connection topology between the controller and the quad is strong enough and secure enough to guarantee that when I'm flying in close, when I can actually keep my eye on it, I'm going to have a rock solid connection between the controller and the quad. So that's wonderful. But in the distance category, it's a tie. So now we'll talk about flight time. Now, flight time's a bit squirrely as well because I've flown the Mavic and I know exactly what this thing can do and how long it can stay in the air under certain conditions. I'm trusting that the EVO is going to have that up to 30 minutes of flight time out there. And again, without actually testing it in the field, I'm going to take them on faith that it'll fly that long. So I'm going to give the EVO the smiley face in that category just based on pure specs alone. Now we're talking about maturity and price, and I mentioned before about both of these companies and their history in the market. I don't want to pick on either company because I know there are fans and foes on both sides of the fence. If you've bought a product from either company and had trouble with it and tried to get it fixed, maybe you're frustrated with that company. And again, I fly both of their products. I really don't have a favorite there. I'm not a fanboy for either side, but purely on maturity, when I compare them side by side, just based on the number of products, DJI's had a lot more products in the market space. They've been building them a lot longer. They've had a much more varied product mix with all the different quads they've put out. So I have to give them the maturity winner in that category. And I know if you've had issues with DJI and you can't stand their customer service, maybe you're not going to agree with it. But I think, again, just to be fair, between those two companies, I think DJI is a bigger company. They've got more quads in the market and they've been doing it longer. So they win based on maturity. The last category has to do with pricing. And again, this is kind of in flux. Right now, you can buy the DJI Mavic for about $850. The Autel EVO on pre-order is $999. They may adjust that price downward. I expect the Mavic's probably going to drop as well when the Mavic Pro 2 comes out. But from a price perspective, if I had to buy both quads today, you got about $150 price difference between the Mavic and the EVO. So I would have to give that one to the Mavic. In this last section, I thought I'd offer some final thoughts and my personal opinion about whether you should wait for the EVO to actually arrive on the market or just buy a quad today and get out there and start flying. And I know it's a very personal decision, so this is going to be completely based on my experience in the market space today, but I fly a lot of quads, and I fly quads every day. I'm out flying something. If friends of mine are borrowing this one, I'll fly that one. If I can't get my hands on either of these, I'll put something else up in the air. I just love being out in the sunshine, in beautiful locations, putting a quad up in the air. I'm still completely blown away by that experience, and every time I think I'm going to get bored with it, I get up the next day, put the quad up in the air, and I'm smiling ear to ear. So I love flying the quad. So from that perspective, the last thing I want you guys to do is to wait. I want you to buy something, get out there and fly today. Because if you wait 2 months or 3 months for that beautiful new quad to come out, there'll be somebody else chasing it with a new quad that's a couple of months beyond that, and you're going to kind of constantly delay that gratification of going out there and having that life-changing experience of putting a quad up in the air and just enjoying the day. So even if the EVO was twice as good as what the Mavic Pro can do today, I'm not willing to wait a month, 2 months. It's already late. So I'm going to wait 2 more months for that thing to hit the street. That's 2 months I can't be out there flying. So specification-wise, kind of a toss-up, right? If we're doing a math contest between the two, I guess there's benefits on both sides. The EVO wins on video quality. They're the same on distance. Maybe the EVO wins on flight time. It ekes out a minute or two more. But the maturity of this company, the maturity of the product, the stability of the product, for me, wins out. The EVO is a brand new product. I know there are going to be issues with it, whether it be mechanical issues or software issues. So do I really want to be dealing with that for the first 6 months of a product launch? That's going to eat up my entire summer of flying, working through firmware updates. And if I'm wrong and they nail it, that's great. But it's not out yet. It's still a product that they're talking about that was supposed to be released end of March, beginning of April. April's come and gone, May's starting. So maybe I'm wrong and they'll release it next week and I'll look like a goofball. But for me, if I'm making a decision today and you're on the fence about should I buy it, should I wait, there isn't that much of a difference, or at least not enough of a difference to wait for that EVO to hit the street. I would argue strongly that if you're in the market for a quad today, go out there and search for the best deal you can get on a Mavic Pro, charge the thing up, go out and fly, and quit looking at the EVO at that point. If you decide down the road that the EVO comes out and somehow it's this technological epiphany that everybody's raving about and it really is so much better than what you're flying today, there's a huge aftermarket place that you can sell your quads. There's a lot of people that are looking for used quads, so you could buy the Mavic, fly it for the entire summer, September, October, put it up for sale, probably get most of your money back, and if you're really that hot and bothered about what the EVO can do, you can buy the EVO at that point. But if you buy the EVO today, if it were out today, maybe it's a different discussion, but it's not on the market today. So my recommendation, strong recommendation is, and I've said this before in other clips, if you're on the fence, get the hell off the fence and buy a quad and get out there and fly. Because I'm telling you, it will change your life. You will smile more. You'll be a friendlier person. Your family will like you more. It's just a wonderfully relaxing hobby that I'm giggling talking about it. Because the minute I finish this clip, I'm going outside to fly a quad. So that's my recommendation. If it were out today, maybe it'd be a discussion between the two and maybe I'd buy the EVO. But it's not out today, so I'm not waiting for it. Buy the quad, go out there and fly. So I'm sure I'm going to get opinions on both sides in the comments below. If I've missed anything, you wanted me to talk about some other aspects of it more, let me know, because I'm working on a couple more clips where I compare the EVO against the Mavic, the Spark, and a couple other quads that are out there. Once I finally get my hands on it, I'll be able to crack open the case, take a look at it, really test out the specifications. But drop your comments below. I'll try to get back to you as quickly as I can. Try to be kind a little bit, because we all have opinions out there, and I'm sure there are people that, are going to hate me for recommending not waiting for the EVO. But right now, if a friend is going to ask me what to do, I'm going to tell them, don't wait another day. Get on today, one of the websites, DJI's website, order a Mavic Pro, go out there and fly the Mavic Pro and have a good time with it because it's so much fun. Anyway, that's it. So thanks an awful lot for watching. I hope you found some value in the clip. I love doing these kind of clips, and I know I had a lot of people, phoning me and leaving messages and putting comments up on the YouTube channel, and I wanted to try and answer this for you guys because I know it's a big expense. It's not a cheap thing to buy, and I know it's something that you don't want to regret later on, but honestly, flying is so much fun that I don't want to wait another day, and I wouldn't recommend you do it either. So thanks again for watching. Until next time, happy flying.